from the foreword of the book Time Shifting, which is written by Stephen Rechtschaffen. And it was in the 90s that this came out. I'd never heard of it. I ran across it at a used bookstore and said, oh, that seems interesting. Create more time to enjoy your life. That sounds like a great idea, right? In the foreword by Thomas More, which was a beautifully written foreword, um, there was this quote towards the end where he said, time need not be imagined in modern terms only as an abstract structure into which life is poured. This is a serious old man's saturnine version of time. We might also think of time as a child at play, full of unknowing chance and serendipity. Now, would anybody like to share where they would file that?
I love the tie to the Roanoke Project.
Yes. Yeah, does anybody have any further thoughts on that before we move on to the next activity?
Well,
on the time management or the time aspect?
To Roanoke, yeah.
I think absolutely. You said something, I think it was in our last episode, you talked about it being a whole planet, right?
Mhm.
And it always bugged me with Star Trek. As much as I love that show, they have a whole planet and they're talking to 20 people. And that seems to be everybody who lives on the planet and totally representative of the entire culture of the planet. So even if the original people who settled it on this planet were generally of the same mindset after generations and generations and the ability to go other places and other people coming, they're going to be different ways of viewing the same thing, different facets of the gem. So I think that notion of time, especially, I love the idea of really playing with how long has it been anyway? How do we even know how long something has been? Because if I think about in our culture now, you'll hear some language and you'll get a sense of that sounds like the way they talked in the 50s. And how does that even happen? How does that get transmitted into something where a 64-year-old woman in 2024 has that idea of how a certain set of words places something in a decade before she was born?
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, when I thought about time in a Roanoke project, I immediately wonder, we know the play aspect of that card is huge with the ancestors because they've hidden all these things in plain sight. They've set things up as a game. So when you think of it as a game, I think of it as a game with a purpose, a collection of games that collectively cause a dawning of understanding. So then we have the question of what is this understanding? Well, perhaps this understanding is something related to time and the duration. Maybe the ancients have actually escaped time. And maybe that's what the game is, it could be leading the explorers to, is how to escape from time at all.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was thinking about was but I'm not so sure this is Roanoke, but the idea is Western cultures and time orientation, um, where the West is clock oriented or clock based, and the East is event related, right? And how is that resolved? How did the Roanokeans or the Blinkers or what did we uh, did they solve that or did they address that? Is that addressed in how they do what they do? Um, I don't know. I'm not even. I'm still researching or starting to research event related Eastern. What is that? What does that look like? What does that mean? You know, because definitely I know clock, but event based. Um, my understanding is here that flexible boundaries, relationship focused, and spontaneous interactions. Okay, those are nice buzzwords, but what does that look like in action? You know, so uh, anyway, I just wanted to pop that in.
For what it's worth, and I'm as much of a rookie writer as you, Deb, but I find having a question like that and then just trying to write the story, you see things. I don't know that you see truth, but you see things that make for interesting parts of the story.
When you see a question like what Mel posed,
No, what you just posed. The
ah,
post about what the things that
clock-based
you raised, like the buzzwords. What does it feel like in action?
right, right, right. Definitely a starting point, right? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I we're really on the same wavelength, Julianne, when you said the Star Trek thing, because that was exactly what I was thinking of when I said we have a whole planet. Because I was thinking of Star Trek and their one culture and one government per planet. Like,
Yeah.
like so
It
much
all
more
seems to
complicated.
be Southern California.
Right.
Right?